ready, set to begin?
Yeah.
Welcome to the February KaffeBox. And here we have CleverCoffee and Lindy from CleverCoffee. He's going to introduce our coffees. And first, why don't you tell a little bit about your roastery and how you guys are set up, and a little bit of background information.
Thank you for having us and having this talk. It's awesome to be a part of this KaffeBox experience. My name is Lindy, and I'm a part owner of CleverCoffee. We are a small roastery here in Denmark. We are located in the countryside. You might be able to see the window in the background. This is an old stable building that we turned into a roastery. And my partner in the company, he lives just on the other side. So here we have our roastery, and in one of the nearer bigger city called Aarhus, we have a coffee shop as well. But our roastery is here in it's called Chirripó. It's a very, very small, not even a town, basically. Mm-hmm. So, I think there's about maybe 20 houses in a row here. So it's really in the countryside, close to a bigger city, but also very remote. So, it's nice to have a bit of nature. We moved the roastery about 3 years ago. We started in a garage that we got food approved and started on an old used ProBat roaster from 1963. And now last summer, we upgraded to a new Loring. So that's what we are roasting on now. That's the roastery. I actually started as a customer. My partner in the company started the CleverCoffee, and I was one of those customers he couldn't get rid of. So I was just as nerdy about coffee and interested in everything in the process. So I started to join him when roasting and stuff like that. And at the time we agreed that we should start growing. It was on the side of a full-time job, and we were running it as a hobby project basically. And then we decided that we needed to invest everything. Or actually, it was pretty much our wives that said so. So we needed to decide on if we wanted to spend the time on our other jobs or this roasting adventure. Lars bought this farm, and we set up the roastery here. And it's been about 3 years in this location, and we still have room to grow. So that's very good. We developed the building as we needed. It's that's where we are at right now. Yeah.
How far are you outside of Aarhus?
We are about half an hour. It's like nice 25 distance. Kilometers outside of Aarhus. So it's very close.
And what's your task in the business, or what jobs are you taking care of?
Yeah, my task are being the head of coffee. So everything evolving around the coffee, I'm responsible for the purchasing, for the contact to the farmers. We buy the coffees as directly as we can and have as close a relationship with the farmers as we can. And that's what I do most of the time. Talking to our farmers, looking into new coffees, developing what we have. I develop all our roast profile and do our quality control and making sure we are where we want to be with our coffees. Everything evolving around the coffee. That's my main task.
Mm-hmm. So while you're talking about the farmers, maybe that's a good segue into talking about these farmers with these coffees. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you purchase these coffees, or where you, if you found them from an importer, or if you have a relationship with the farmers?
Yeah. We have a direct relationship with both the farmers, and that's one of the reasons why we picked these two coffees, because we really believe in the close relationship, and we want to grow together with these farms, and they are doing an awesome job, both of these farms, and that's why it was a must for us to do something like this. The coffee, La Catarata from Costa Rica, that's a farm, Café Rivense, we've been working with for a couple of years, and the Samambaia from Brazil is actually our newest direct relationship. This is the first coffee we bought from them. But we've been talking with them and trying to figure out the best way to do things, move forward since actually the World of Coffee event in Berlin in 2019, where we met for the first time. And I knew right away when I tasted their coffee that they were doing something special. Brazilian coffee is typically not something I find that interesting, but you can really taste the craftsmanship in their work. So we started to figure out a way to work together and find the right coffees and get them shipped off to us. We are not that big a roastery, so we are dependent on being able to move coffee together with somebody else. So this was done by Algrano. They helped us with that part. So yeah, that's a new and very interesting relationship. SanCoffee, the cooperative behind this coffee, they have what's called the B Corp certification, basically the highest form of certification you can have on responsible and sustainable business governance. And this B Corp certification is something that we are also pending right now. We should get our certification within a few months. So nice. That's also an add-on to this relationship that we can really benefit from both parts. The coffee from Costa Rica, La Catarata, that's a relationship that started a few years ago when I was contacted by Ricardo. He's one of the brothers running the farm right now. His father is still active and grandfather still a part of the farm as well. And basically, he contacted me through Instagram and asked if we were interested in tasting his coffee, and we definitely were. And again, once I tasted it, I could really tell that this was high quality and something that we wanted to work with. And we were able to buy into that coffee. And this is the second year from them. And right now we're looking into what we're gonna buy from them this year. So that's a very close relationship as well. We really want to incorporate these coffee farmers into everything that we do, and that's also one of the reasons why we invited Ricardo from Café Rivense to be a part of an advisory board that we have, where we can get some insights on things that we are looking into, decisions we want to make. We can spar with them about these things, how this will influence him as a coffee farmer if we make these decisions. So he's a very close part of the way we governance our company.
Yeah. So the decisions that you make or plans for the future, you have an advisory board that you confer with or talk with, and he's part of that.
Exactly. Yeah. And we try to include the entire value chain. So we also have some of our bigger customers being a part of it, some of our private customers. And this is also a chance for them to be able to have a dialogue and meet the coffee farmer and understand. So if they ask us, why is this coffee not certified organic? We can talk more about the risk involved for the farmers going fully certified organic, and that they might actually be doing something that's equally good, but maybe without the certification, and that really helps everybody understand, even us in the middle, what's the main focus and what's the risk involved in these areas.
Yeah, that
So
seems
that's really giving
really,
us.
really interesting that on an advisory board like that everyone can hear the other's sort of side of the story. The purchaser and the end consumer
Yeah, yeah,
can hear the viewpoint of the farmer and the middleman, and everyone is sort of in touch with each other.
exactly. Yeah.
Is that a common thing, or is this something that you guys have sort of pioneered, or do quite a few roasteries have something like this?
I've never heard about a roastery having this. I don't think this is a common thing, but it was very natural for us because we were talking to them anyway,
Yeah,
always trying to catch up and being involved in what's happening and understanding what's happening at the farm and giving them the same ideas about what was happening in our end.
yeah,
So for us, it was just a natural step to make this more official,
yeah,
and we wanted to bring everybody in the value chain closer together. So it was a natural step for us to do this and make it more official in this way.
yeah, yeah. That seems it would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Okay, well, let's get into the coffees.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, where would you like to start? Costa Rica?
Let's start with the yeah, exactly.
That's where.
This is the La Catarata. It's a honey processed, and it's the variety called Villasachi, which is basically almost only found in Costa Rica.
Mhm.
Um, they processed it as a black honey, so
Mhm.
leaving a lot of mucilage with the cherries after removing the skin. So they really get a chance to suck in some deeper sweetness,
Yeah,
and this is one of the reasons why we're tasting like figs and some of these deeper sweetness in the coffee like this.
yeah.
This is the second year we have this exact coffee, and it's quite interesting that this is actually very different from the first year, even though it's grown and processed in exactly the same way. But what happened was that in the just after the harvest in the period where they were drying the coffee, it got a lot colder, so
Yeah.
it slowed down the drying process,
Mhm.
and it changed the profile a lot. So this is a bit more subtle than it was the year before,
Yeah.
but it's super clean, and you can really also taste into this fruity acidity, the like green apples
Yeah.
that
I think
really
I
makes the
understand it.
coffee still very fresh and beautifully balanced. This is a coffee that I like to drink pretty much all the time. So it's just so well balanced and delicious to drink. And I enjoy it both as a filter and also as an espresso,
Mhm.
where as an espresso you really get a bit more of the acidity, but also the sweetness from the figs. So this balance is beautifully done, and basically what they do at the farm is they process all their coffee without water,
Oh.
so they don't have any washed coffees. They
Mhm.
are purely honey processed and naturals. So this is one of the steps they have also done to have a lower impact on the environment, basically using less water than you normally would.
Yeah.
And it also means that they're really specialized in these types of processing. And I really believe you can taste the craftsmanship in this. Yeah, it's so clean, and this is due to really managing your process and giving this very yeah, bright and clean flavor of sweet figs and green apples.
Mhm.
And there's also for me a bit of cherry in the flavor. It's I find it mainly there when the coffee is not as hot anymore.
Yeah.
So you have a phase in the middle where this cherry really pops out,
Mhm.
and then as it cools down even more, it's really this sweetness from the figs that I think you're left with as a mouthfeel, and it stays in your mouth for a long time.
Yeah, this one is really cool. Now I've had it, brewed it a little while ago, and I feel that the green apple really comes, and then, but I feel also at the end that there's some sort of spice, like maybe after 12 seconds in my mouth, and I would say cinnamon or something a little bit. Spice, something like that lingers or something.
I can definitely recognize that as well. Especially in it as it cools down. You get something. It could be something like cinnamon, and also you can also have a little bit of like hazelnut in the flavor as well. So and that's one of the things I also love about this coffee. I find it relative easy to brew, but if you brew it relaxedly and not exactly the same each time, you will really experience a lot of different flavors, but pretty much very easy to get balanced any way you brew it.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things you could pull out depending on your brewing.
Yeah, exactly. And also, of course, also influenced by the water you use. We go very clean, like 40, 50 ppm in the water we normally use, and this really brings out the clarity, the transparency in the coffee, and makes it easier to distinct the different flavors.
Cool. Okay, let's go on to the Brazilian coffee. This one is a little bit more crazy, so tell us about it.
Yeah, it is. This is basically everything you would not expect in a coffee from Brazil. Brazilian coffees, you usually taste more of these sweet, chocolatey, caramello, and maybe some nutty flavors. But this is a Novo Mundo, Mundo Novo. That's been processed like a natural, but before the drying phase, it's been sealed in barrels where you remove all the oxygen by filling them up totally, and in this way you make what's called an anaerobic fermentation, and this really changes the dynamics of the bacteria responsible for the fermentation, and brings out in this coffee particularly just some funky tropical fruits, pretty wild flavors, lots of sweetness, but also a lot of juicy fruitiness, acidity. I really taste a full palette of tropical fruits. I taste mango, I taste papaya and pineapple, and and they tend to have almost just a hint of you call synthetic flavors. So for me, like candy and candied fruits. And this is also a coffee where as you drink it from very hot and to cool, that you can really taste into these different tropical fruits. And this is a super interesting coffee, and really a coffee that we are getting a lot of response on, because it's something you wouldn't expect typically in a coffee, and that's what makes this very interesting. This is not my typical morning coffee, but it's a bit too wild for me in the morning. But like just before lunch or in the afternoon, I really enjoy a coffee like this, especially basically both of them. If you have the time to just sit down slowly and really savor the flavors and try to analyze and understand what it is that you're tasting. But this is really a a fruit punch that it really just I had no doubts that we were gonna get this coffee when I tasted it, and it's quite amazing. It's been it's an exclusive that's only in this in the KaffeBox subscription. We have a very similar one, just another variety, but it's the same quality, same processing, and you can really taste the likeness, but it's also very much its own. So that's also quite interesting to actually taste how much the variety means in terms of flavor when you compare two very similarly processed coffees.
What's the variety of the other similar coffee?
It's
the same process?
It's also a natural, also anaerobic fermentation, but that's a yellow Catarata. And they have very different flavor profiles. The other one is even more synthetic. So I'm tasting wine gum and sweet grapes and some vanilla and stuff like that. So they are really coffees that flavor wise stand out a lot.
I think this one would make a really great cold brew. And in terms of flavor profile, I think if you took like pineapple and grilled it in a frying pan with a little sugar and made like some caramelized pineapple dessert, it would be sort of like this.
Yeah, exactly. And then you could serve a cold brew of the coffee next to it. So that would work beautifully for sure. I brewed it a few times as a cold brew, and it really stands out. So yeah, that's and we wanted to include two coffees that were very different, but individually very good. So and I think these two coffees are from both ends of the spectrum flavor wise, and really represents a lot of what can happen flavor wise in coffee. We roast the coffees very light, and we roast them in an omni roast profile. So basically each coffee decides how we roast them. So we of course want them to be developed enough for you to really be able to get the flavors and taste the full potential, but really keep them very light so we don't go into the roasting notes and deeper caramelization of the coffee. So they are super clean, super bright, both of them, and that's the profile that we like. So yeah.
Can you, two things before we round this up. Can you talk a little bit about Omni Roast? The majority of roasters roast for espresso, a little darker for espresso and a little lighter for filter brew. And a small percentage do Omni Roast. Can you touch a little bit on how you guys decided to do Omni Roast and your thoughts sort of behind it?
Well, basically a few things. I just find that a coffee, when roasting it, they always have a certain point where they just taste better than roasted a little bit less, a little bit more. And it probably means that you have to work a little bit more with your, especially brewing it as an espresso. You need to dial in your grinder a little bit more. But if you do that, you can really unlock a much wider potential in the coffee. The spectrum of flavors are just so much bigger when roasting this Omni Roast, where it's the coffee that decides basically how much we roast it and it's developed. If typically you would roast a little bit darker for espresso to tone down the acidity in the coffee. But if you grind finer and maybe dose a bit higher, you can really unlock a lot more sweetness, in my opinion, by doing this Omni Roast. And that's one of the philosophies behind our roasting profile as an omni roast. One of the other things is it makes it easier to buy into our coffee, both as a private customer but also as a cafe. You don't have to manage that you have to have a stock of filter coffee and a stock of espresso coffees. So you can basically use the same, and if you run out of one, you can just switch over to the other. That makes it easier. So that's also one of the reasons why we do this. It's easier, and it's also easier for us to manage. We don't have to have different roast profiles for different coffees and having even more coffee in stock, risking that we won't sell them before they get too old to sell. For every of these steps, it's just easier, in my opinion, to do it this way. So once you unlocked how to dial in your espresso with a lighter roast, it's quite easy to do, and that's the philosophy behind the omni roast.
Yeah, great. And on your bags, you say ideal resting time, or even better. I like how you word it. Even better, 14 days after roast. Can you talk a little bit about resting time with your coffees, or with how you feel in regards to roasting time?
I generally find that the coffee really gains a lot by waiting. Don't dive into bags of coffee too soon. Especially with light roasted coffee, they tend to not fully develop their flavor until after a bit of time. So I would wait at least 2 weeks after roasting until I start brewing the coffee. And most of our coffees, and these two in particular, they peak around 4 or 5 weeks after roasting. And continue to be on its peak for a few weeks. So there's really a lot to gain from waiting. I would love for people to have a bit more patience and not dive into the bags too soon. Because you won't get the full experience until after at least 2 weeks, and preferably 3 or 4 weeks after roasting. You will find a lot more balance. You will find the flavors to be more distinct. It's easier to taste the different notes in the coffee, and there's nothing that really just tastes a bit too much, which I tend to find in coffee that's too fresh. There's typically one of the flavors that's just overwhelming the rest, so you won't get all the nuances in the coffee. Have patience and wait until about 4 weeks after roasting. Coffees like these really
to 1 cup a day, so you don't drink it all by day 15.
Yeah. Exactly, and keep the coffee in the bags is a good idea, and seal them with the zipper inside it. That will keep the coffee fresh and very good, even if you've been using the bag for a few weeks.
Great. Well, thanks for all the information and for your time, and thanks most of all for being part of KaffeBox. It's been great to have you in this month's shipment.
It's been a great pleasure for us as well. It's always fascinating to hear from people around the world, and you have the best subscribers, so it's been awesome. Thank you for having us.
Great, thanks.